peace and blessings, and welcome to Homestead Heart. So this edition of Homestead Heart, as I promised, 'tis the season to be canning. And today we are gonna be canning some bean soup. And this is gonna be bean soup my way, pressure canned. Okay, now if you don't know how these beans were prepared, I have a video that's already up to show you how I prepare the beans for canning. Okay, so these beans are hot. They are hot in hot water. I have my canning jars already in the oven. They have been sterilizing. You only have to leave them in there for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But mine have been in for, oh my goodness, I don't know how long. They've been in there for a long time. And these are the ingredients that we're going to be using today to can bean soup. All right, so let's start with our main ingredient. Number one, navy beans. An extra pot of boiling hot water. It's hot water, it's really hot. All right, I have carrots. I have bell pepper. I have onion. I have tomato paste. I have chopped garlic. This is a mixture of celery flakes and basil. That is, see if you can see that, curry powder, turmeric, canning salt. Those are the ingredients that I'm going to be placing in my bean soup today, and I'm going to bring you along with me while I get that done. All right, so come on along and let's get started. All right, and we're back, so let's go ahead and get started. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start filling the jars with navy beans. All right, and I probably didn't show you this, but I have my lids sitting in this pot right here. These are my lids. They're in this water, nice warm water. I didn't boil it. I didn't boil the water. It's just really, really warm, okay? These are the rings. I have the rings just kind of hanging up here from my cabinet, and that makes it easy for me to grab them and get them on the jars. And of course, I have my jar lifter. Now remember, the tools that I'm using today, I've already done a video for them, so you can go and look at that video, and that'll tell you the tools that you'll be needing for your canning. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is my beans. As I said, they're hot. I'm going to add 2 cups. First of all, I'm going to put my funnel on top of my jar, and my jars are hot. This one, I need to move that one out of the way. I'm going to grab a hot jar from one that was in the oven. These are really hot too, y'all. Really hot jars. All right, and that's what this little lifter's for. Okay, I'm going to add 2 cups of navy beans. These beans have soaked for a little more than 24 hours, and I'm adding 2 cups. Now, I'm not measuring it out because I'm kind of used to doing this with my little skimmer here, but if you get the Ball brand canning jars, they have the measurements right on the jar to show you where 2 cups can be located. Let me turn it around. And on this jar right here, this is the 2 cup mark right here. I'm going to add just a few more beans to bring me up to 2 cups. That should do it. All right, so now I'm at 2 cups of navy beans. The next thing I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of onion. Okay? Now typically I would just put this in, but I'm measuring it out so that you could see what it looks like, okay? And that's going to be roughly 2 tablespoons of onion. Okay? Roughly 2 tablespoons of carrot. It could be a little more, or it could be a little, actually, it could be more or less, whatever you like, okay? That's 2 tablespoons of carrots, 2 tablespoons of bell pepper. Okay? And then I'm going to add 1 heaping teaspoon of tomato paste. All right? Just move my funnel and get that right down in the jar. All right. Next, I'm going to add my spices. I'm going to start with the garlic. I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon. Here's the garlic, if you could see that. I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of the chopped garlic. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of curry powder. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. And I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of kosher. This is canning salt, okay? Remember, you always use canning salt. You don't want to use salt that has iodine in it because it will turn the color of your product. You don't want that looking all rusty inside. And then my celery flakes. I have celery flakes here and basil. And I'm just going to put a nice pinch of each one of those down into the jar. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and add my hot water. If you notice, I'm not using the water from the beans. I'm using plain hot water. Why? It's in the previous video. Go check out the previous video and you'll know why I'm doing it that way. Okay, so I'm adding the plain hot water. Does it mean that you can't use the water from the beans? No, it doesn't mean that. You can definitely use the water from the beans. And remember, we talked about in a previous video the headspace. So for the headspace, this is going to be a 1-inch headspace, which is usually this first ring here on your jar. Okay, so that's the 1-inch mark, and that's why I fill my water to. Now after that, I'm going to move my funnel and I'm going to debubble. Remember, debubbling is removing the air pockets from the jar. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and give this a nice little stir because I also have the tomato paste in there. And I want the tomato paste to go ahead and dissolve inside of the water. So I'm going to go ahead and just give that a quick stir. And that has helped to dissolve the tomato paste. Now what I'm going to do now is clean off the rim of my jar. And that clear liquid that you did not see back there, that's vinegar. And I'm just going to dip a clean towel into the vinegar. And then I'm going to use that to wipe the rim of the jar. Now remember, I told you before, when you open your jars before you can, even if they're jars you've had for a long time, always run your finger across the rim and the outside just gently to see if your jar has any nicks or any cracks in it, because if it does, you can't use that because your jar probably won't seal. Okay? After that, I'm going to go ahead and take one of my lids that has been sitting in this nice warm water, and I'm going to put that on top of my jar. I'm going to grab a ring. And remember, we talked about when you put your rings on, you're going to put that on fingertip tight. So once I get to that first level of resistance, then I know I can go ahead and tighten it just a little bit fingertip. Don't crank down on that. You don't want it to be that tight, okay? Now, this is what this looks like. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this upside down because I want my vegetables to mix in with the beans. So now that I've turned it, the vegetables are kind of mixed in with the beans. Okay, you see that? Hopefully you can see that. The vegetables are mixed in. Then I'm going to take this jar now and I'm going to get it down inside of the pressure canner. My pressure canner has 3 quarts of water, or 3 inches of water inside of it. And your pressure canner, if you're using a pressure canner, look at the instructions for your canner and it'll tell you how much water should be inside of your canner, okay? All right, next jar. Again, I need my lid, my funnel. 2 cups of navy beans. All right, and after I've gotten my 2 cups of beans in, I know it's 2 cups because it says 2 cups on the jar. I'm going to go ahead and add in my vegetables, my 2 tablespoons, heaping tablespoons of onion, or a little more if you like. Remember, you can do whatever you like. Then I'm going to do the carrots. 2 tablespoons, 2 heaping tablespoons of carrots. 2 heaping tablespoons of bell pepper. Okay? Good. Isn't that pretty? That's just pretty. All right. Then I'm going to add a nice heaping tablespoon of tomato paste. Okay? Nice heaping tablespoon of tomato paste. Get that in a jar. All right. I'm sorry, heaping teaspoon, not tablespoon. Teaspoon of tomato paste. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in all of my spices. I'm coming back with that 1/8 of a teaspoon of chopped garlic, 1/2 a teaspoon of curry powder, 1/2 a teaspoon of turmeric, 1/2 a teaspoon of canning salt, and I'm going to do a pinch of each one, the celery, and look at that, the basil. That's so beautiful. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the water to my jars, okay? Remember, this is hot product, hot beans, hot water going into a hot canner, okay? And you can really use whatever spices you like. I know when you're canning your soups and different products, whatever spices that you like, you can use those. I love cayenne pepper, but I'm not going to add the cayenne pepper to this because it might be somebody else eating this that can't take the heat. So I won't do that. I'll add it after I take it out, after I open the jar. So now I'm going to go ahead and debubble, and then I'm going to also give this a nice stir to get that tomato paste to dissolve. It will dissolve on its own when you get it in the pressure canner, but I want to do it this way. I just want to see how it looks. Isn't that pretty? All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and wipe the rim of my jar, cleaning off the rim because I want to make sure that the seal is not going to be affected by my rims not being clean. And I have already checked my jars to make sure that there was no damage. I'm going to put a lid on top with my handy dandy magnet. I'm going to grab one of the rings, hang that back up there, get this on here, fingertip tight. I'm going to pick this up, give this a quick turn like so, just to get the vegetables all incorporated in there. And in the pressure canner, it's going to go. Let me pick this up so you can see it. Bring this a little closer to you. How's that looking for you? See there? These beans have not been pre-cooked. They have only been soaked. Okay? They have only been soaked for 2 days. And the reason why I choose to do it that way is because I don't want my beans to be all mushy, okay? I don't want them to be mushy in the jars after I pressure can these, because this has to pressure can for 90 minutes, your beans. So I do not want my beans to be mushy when I open them, so I give them the opportunity to cook inside of the pressure canner. So these beans have not been pre-cooked. Now some people would like to cook their bean soup first, then put it in the jars and pressure can it for the 90 minutes. That's fine if you want to do it that way. Like I said, it's totally up to you, okay? Now, for me, now let me just show you this before I continue. This is what the canning salt looks like. It's going to be on the grocery aisle in the grocery store, and it has canning and pickling salts for cooking, canning, and pickling. So this is the salt that I use when I am canning my foods, okay? So I just want to show you what that looked like, all right? Okay, now getting back to where I was, I have my 2 cups of beans in my jar. I'm going to go ahead and add now 2 tablespoons of each one of my vegetables. Remember I said 2 heaping tablespoons. If you want to use more per jar, you can use more per jar. It's totally up to you, okay? I'm going to add my carrots. 2 heaping tablespoons of carrots. And then let me just go on and rake those in. Remember I said you can do it however you like. And then I'm going to add 2 heaping tablespoons of onion to this jar as well. In fact, on this jar I'm going to add 3 just to show you. You can do whatever you like, okay? I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to move my funnel, but I'm going to go ahead and add my heaping teaspoon of tomato paste. Sit that back to the side. I'll let that sit off. That's hot. I'm going to add my 1/8 of a teaspoon of crushed garlic. I'm going to add my 1/2 teaspoon of curry powder. I love curry powder, but I love turmeric the most. 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, my 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And you know what? Salt, some people like to use a full teaspoon of salt per quart size jar. I prefer not to. I like 1/2 teaspoon, and if I need more salt, I can always go back and add more salt. But if this is too salty, you can't take salt out, but you can put it in, okay? So I'm going to add my pinch of celery flake and my pinch of basil. And that is all of the food that I'm going to be putting in this jar. Now I'm going to clean my rim, just a touch of vinegar, squeeze out the excess, and wipe the rims. And actually I need to put the water in first, don't it? All right. Put my funnel back on. And y'all, I love the way vinegar smells. I know that's weird, right? But I love the way vinegar smells. It doesn't bother me at all. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ladle in my hot water. Okay? Get all of this ladled in. And that is 1 inch head space right there. See that? There it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove my funnel. I'm going to debubble. Get the air pockets out of the jar. Then I'm going to just go ahead and give this a nice stir to help dissolve the tomato paste. All right. That looks so good. I wish y'all could see this the way I'm looking at it. But this looks so good. These beans are going to cook and can, or cook actually, inside of the canner. Now I'm going to wipe my rims. All the way around. I'm going to add my lid. And then I'm going to add my band. Okay? Get that on there like so. Finger tight. Inside of the canner this is going to go. Look at there. Isn't that pretty? Don't y'all love that? This is how simple this process is, y'all. Look at how simple that is. I got one more jar to do. My pressure canner holds 7 quarts, and I've already done several. So this is going to be the 7th right here. Again, inside of this jar, 2 cups of navy beans, soaked navy beans. 2 cups of soaked navy beans. I know some people talk about they don't soak their beans, they just wash them and then in the pressure canner it goes. I don't do that. I've done a video to show you why it is important for you to soak your beans. It is so important Don't just throw your dry beans in here after you've washed them and then pressure can them. I don't think that's a healthy way to can your beans, okay? So I don't recommend doing it that way. And I'm gonna add this bell pepper, 2 heaping tablespoons. Actually, I might add a little more there. And I need to add some carrot, but guess what? I have run out of carrot. So guess what? I gotta cut some more. Thank goodness I got one right here. I'm gonna get this carrot cut up real quick. And that's that. I'm gonna add those to my jar. Look at there. Isn't that pretty? Pretty easy. Move this back out of the way. All right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add my spices. Adding my 1/8 of a teaspoon of crushed garlic. And you know what? I love garlic really and truly. I could add way more than 1/8 of a teaspoon to my soup when it comes to garlic. I am a garlic fan. I love garlic. All right. Teaspoon of curry powder, teaspoon of turmeric. Now one thing I'll remind you of is when it comes to spice, teaspoon of salt. When it comes to spice, if you're going to be using peppers, I highly recommend that you don't go overboard with that. Because one thing about canning, the flavors do intensify when you can it and when it sits for a while. I'm adding my pinch of celery flake and basil. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my water. And I do hope I remember to add my tomato paste. Okay, I think I did. Let me go ahead now. Oops. Add the water. I'm going to know in a minute if I added this tomato paste or not, because it's definitely going to show. You don't have to add tomato paste, by the way. Like I said, you can put in it what you want to taste. However you cook your bean soup. If you make a simple bean soup recipe with just onions, beans, and garlic, that's fine. You don't have to put all of that in it if you don't want. I got a little bit too much water in there. But I'm going to go ahead and debubble this. I don't see tomato paste. I don't see tomato paste. I don't see tomato paste. Nope. Let me get it in there right now. Nice big teaspoon of tomato paste. Actually, I'm going to take some of that water out first because I got too much in there. Just pour that out. Okay, bring this a little closer. Hopefully you can see that better. A little of that water out, a little more. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and add my tomato paste. Like I said, nice big heaping teaspoon. Then I'm gonna go ahead and debubble that. And if you don't want the tomato paste, you just want the bean soup to look just like that, you could do that. You can do that. But I'm gonna go ahead and stir that around and debubble all at the same time. That looks so good. And in no time flat, we are going to have some nice canned bean soup. I'm going to clean off the rim of my jar. Dip that in a little vinegar. Okay. Look at that. Gonna grab a band. A lid. Yep. Then I'm going to grab a band. Drop that right over the top. Fingertip tight. That's it. I'm going to give this a quick toss like so. You don't have to do that. I'm just doing it because I like the way it looks. I like how it looks when I do it. Turn it again. And that's it. Look at that. And in the pressure canner, this is going to go. All right. Now, actually, this is my last and final jar. This is my 7th jar. So what I'm going to do now, that vinegar that I was using to clean my lids, that vinegar, I'm now going to just pour it inside of my canner. And the reason why I put vinegar in the water is because the vinegar keeps my jars from clouding in the water. And if you have hard water, you especially want to use some vinegar in your water. Not a lot, just maybe 2 tablespoons, 2 or 3. That's it. And I'm going to put my last jar inside. And I'm going to bring you over here and let you see what that looks like. Come on, let's go have a look-see. There they are. I'm vertically challenged. But that's what that looks like. They're all in the canner. And I'm going to go ahead and get the lid on the canner. And once I get the lid on, I'll show you what that looks like as well. All right, I'm back. And the jars are in the canner. The canner is sealed. You know what? I'm going to get some assistance because I need to show you what this looks like, okay? Sister. Come help us, sister. Ooh-wee. Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to duck this way. All right. Let me show you what this looks like because this is why I can't do this with one hand. I got to put the camera down when I do this because this jar seals. It has a rubber gasket underneath the lid and it seals and keeps the pressure in. It's not a metal-to-metal canner like the All-American. So this rubber gasket helps to create that seal, which will bring your can up to pressure. So when I put this lid on, I have to maneuver this lid a certain kind of way. And now that it's actually on there, the way you seal it is you pull it together like so. And now that lid is on there and it's sealed, okay? So that's what it looks like once we get the seal on it. Now, let me show you this. Thank you, sister. Now, let me show you this. I got my fire up. Well, actually, I'm about to turn it up on high. And the reason being is because I need for this to go ahead and build up pressure and start to vent, okay? And what's going to happen is this little flute right here is going to start venting. All right, it's going to, see, it's already starting to push air up out of there. Can you see the water pushing itself up out of the air coming out? It's going to push air out of this pressure canner because you cannot pressure can with air inside of the canner. So it's going to push all of the air out. And once it starts pushing the air out, you'll hear it just coming out. And then you'll actually see a steady flow of steam. And when that happens, it has to steam or vent for 10 full minutes. And after that, I'll come back and put my pressure regulator on and I'll start timing the processing, or I'll actually put that on and leave that regulator on until this raises to my desired pressure, which is 10 pounds for the Georgia area for me. Then I'll start timing the processing. These jars have to process for a full 90 minutes. Okay, so 1.5 hours these jars will process in the pressure canner. And now you understand why I don't cook my beans first, because an hour and a half in a pressure canner, that's going to do all the work for me. Okay, so I'll bring you back and show you what that looks like as it starts to vent. And as you can see, I have a lot more beans to do. I'm pretty sure this is about 12 pounds of beans in here. So this is going to give me roughly 2 cases of bean soup. I have my first 7 in and more to go. So thank you so much. Stay with me. I'll be right back as soon as we can get this thing to vent. Okay, so now this is, the air is being pushed out and I can feel it here. I can feel it. And the pressure nipple is about to pop up because it is building pressure. In fact, I'll show it to you. There it goes. So that lets you know that pressure is now building in the canner, or has now built up in the canner, and this is now pushing out more and more air, okay? And I can feel it. The air is super hot. No steam yet, but just air, okay? So when this actually has steam flowing out of it, I'll show you what that looks like. Once all of the air is pushed out, you see how the water's coming up from around. Ooh, let me move my phone from over that. You see how the water's coming up from around that? You won't see that anymore either because all of the air will have been pushed out of this canner. All right? You could hear the air actually. You could hear it, but there's no steam. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Okay, welcome back. So this is now venting. I don't know if you could actually see it, but the steam is coming out, okay? And I'm gonna let this vent like this for 10 full minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the timer and get this started for 10 full minutes. And once it finishes, I'll bring you back and we'll get the pressure regulator on, and then we'll bring it up to temperature. All right, so we're back. This has been venting 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and put the regulator on now. And after I get the regulator on, this is gonna start to build to pressure. And I'm gonna bring that up to 10 pounds of pressure. Now, depending on where you are, you need to know what your altitude is, okay? You need to know what your altitude is, okay? And you can find that you can go to, I think the USDA website. You can look in your, in your references if you have like canning guides and things like that. It may have the altitude, the map with where you're located and all of that, but know your elevation. That will determine how many pounds of pressure you need to can what products, okay? So right now we've already raised to 5 pounds of pressure. This is going to get up to 10 pounds, and when it gets to 10 pounds of pressure and hold, then we're going to start timing this for 90 minutes. These beans will process in this canner for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so we are just about at 10 pounds of pressure, and literally I have been sitting here for like 3 minutes, probably less than that, and we're already at 10 pounds and climbing. So what I'm gonna do now, because we're at 10 pounds of pressure, I'm gonna go ahead now and reduce my heat. This is on high, but I'm gonna take this all the way down to like a medium low, okay? And once it gets to that medium low, I'm gonna monitor the pressure. And if it holds at 10, then it'll stay there. If it continues to climb, then I will reduce it even more. And I'll show you where we settle. I'm going to give this a minute. Actually, let me bring this back up just a little more. It's dropping too far. Okay. So I'm going to let that sit there and see if it'll hold at around 10 pounds of pressure. And if so, I'm going to start my timer for 90 minutes. All right. We are now holding at 10. Like I said, I have my timer already started. I have my timer started. It's already set for that hour and a half. And I will continue to monitor this to keep it at 10 pounds. If I need to reduce the heat, I will. You will have to monitor it, okay? You just can't walk away from it and be gone for 30 minutes or an hour and a half. You gotta monitor this, okay? So I'm gonna let that sit. I will be monitoring the pressure here, the pressure gauge, and it'll let me know if I need to reduce the heat. More than likely I'm gonna need to, but I will bring you back in 90 minutes and show you the end result. Actually, it's gonna be a lot sooner for you. It's gonna be like now. All right, and we are back. As you can see, the pressure is now down to 0. My little pressure nipple back there is down. So that means it is now safe for me to, step 1, remove the pressure regulator from the canner, okay? So I have removed that. I'm going to sit that down there. And now I am going to remove the lid. Now I'm going to set the camera down for this because this thing is going to be loaded with steam, and I do not want to burn myself. Now, one thing I'll tell you, when you open the lid, be sure you lift the lid away from you. You do not want to open that up and get a face full of steam. That stuff will burn. It's hot. Okay, so I'm going to just pull this back, And then I'm going to open the lid so you can see, and then I will take the jars out and get them on the counter. All right, all right. So now I'm going to show you what I mean by opening the lid away from you. Let me show you. So I'm going to loosen up this lid. Just going to release it, and these handles are even hot, okay? Because this has been pressure cooking for 90 minutes. So now I'm just going to, first I'm going to open the lid and give that a second because like I said, it's hot. And then once I lift up, I'm going to open this lid away from me, like so, and let the steam out. And then I will take it off that way, okay? And oh my goodness, if you could smell what I'm smelling. Oh, it smells so good. And I'm gonna go ahead and get these lifted out so you can see them. Y'all, they smell so good. Many of them have already started to seal. I'm gonna just take those out. Those are still boiling inside, okay? They're still boiling. Let me pause this so I can get them all on the counter. Okay, so now let's get them all out and I will line them up. I have a double layer of towels here because I don't want these jars to be so hot that they actually burn my countertops. Have to protect my countertops, okay? Let me move these other jars out of the way. Oops. All right. In fact, I'm going to slide it back just a tad bit off the edge here. There we go. And I have 7 jars to get out of the canner, okay? And I'm going to get them all lined up. And like I said, these jars are still boiling on the inside. So it's important to be very careful, okay? Very important to be very careful. Whoa, hold on. Let's see, what are you doing that for? Calm down. All right, let's take these out. Now, I don't know if you could see that, but they are still boiling inside. The vegetables have all risen to the top of the jars. The beans have cooked inside of the jars. And once the pressure reduces, all of this is going to settle together. Tomorrow, I'm going to have to come in here and I'm going to literally have to shake the jars to combine the vegetables, the beans, and the spices. And then after that, they're going to settle. And once they settle, oh my goodness, they are going to look absolutely amazing. So let's get them all out of the canner. Okay, that's jar number 4. Jar number 5. I need more towels. That's 5 jars. And I'm gonna just line up a couple of more towels back here in the back and get them all out onto the counter. Now that's 5 jars. I'm gonna put the other 2 behind them. 6. You there? That look good? Don't know if you can see that. Don't it look good? Amazing. So that's 6. Set that back there. In fact, let me just move you. And last but not least, jar number 7. Those look so good. Let me pick you up so you could get a close-up. Ready for my close-up, Mr. Bill? All right, look at those. Now, do you see how the vegetables have all floated to the top of this jar? That's because, remember, we put the beans in and the beans were not cooked. They were only pre-soaked. And we put in raw vegetables, okay? But that's okay because, like I said, come tomorrow, all of these will be well combined. Vegetables, spices, everything. It'll all be well combined. They're all floating because they're still boiling. I don't know if you could see that. But these are all still doing their bubbles inside. They're still cooking. Okay? So that's why they look that way. And these, I'm waiting for them to ping. Some of them have started, others have not. And ping, what I mean is that seal. Do you see how that indentation is still up on the top of that jar? If you look right in the center, right here, you'll see that is still up. Versus this one, you'll see that it's down. So we got a jar, we have two more jars that still need to seal, and they should be sealing any moment now. All right, so that's the end result of the bean soup. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, please share it. This is just informational. This is the way I can my bean soup. And there goes another jar. Did you hear it? So this is the way I can my bean soup, and I can it this way because mine, I'm not eating it right away. My bean soup is going in my food storage, and that will be there. And yes, this will last several years on the shelf. And because I wanted to last several years and did not want mushy beans, I only pre-soaked my beans for a couple of days, changing out the water every day. It just didn't sit in the same old water. The next day I would get up, pour that water out, add fresh water, cover them, fresh warm water that is, cover them and let them soak another 24 hours. That's just the way I do it. You don't have to let them soak for 48 hours. I choose to do that. You can let them soak for 24 hours, 12 hours, it's up to you. But I let mine really soak for a long time. And then I get them in the canning jars. Hot beans, though, because I always heat the water. Bring it back up to a simmer. And then once it comes up to a simmer, I turn the fire off, cover the pot, and then I'm ready. I just get all my other products, my canning supplies ready, and this is the result. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Homestead Heart. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a blessed one. Peace out.